started, let's talk about the Niners situation. Cornerback was obviously the room that probably had the biggest question marks last year. Defensive tackle did at times as well. Offensive guard maybe a little bit, but I would say that the biggest struggles came in the Niners secondary and specifically in that cornerback room. So let's talk about J.C. Jackson. Let's talk about Stephon Gilmore, going back to two really, really good man corners from the New England system, from that Bill Belichick system. So, Aiden, I'll let you start. What do you think about the Niners going out and signing J.C. Jackson to a 5-year, $100 million deal?
It's not what I would do. He brings something really different to this Niners room. He's a really, really good corner who has not been paid really at all in his career yet. Um, so obviously he's going to sign a big deal. But the way that the Niners run defense, I don't think that they need a top flight corner the way that other teams do. The Rams need Ramsey. The Niners, their D line is so dominant, and they play defense with their linebackers and getting after the passer. A lot of zone, a little bit more man this past year. But like I like the young guys, and at $20 million a year, it's a little bit pricey. He's already 26, which means he'd be starting his 30s when that contract begins to near its end. It's not what I would do. I'd be excited if it happens, but it would signal a bit of a shift in the way the Niners look at their defensive scheme. So would not expect it to happen.
Yeah, I always find it interesting why I don't get on board with signing big corners because this idea has been floated around and a lot of people have reached out. Non-49er fans like, hey, like, do you think you guys are going to land J.C. Jackson? And I'm like, I don't really want that to happen. And it's not about J.C. Jackson, the player, for me. I think J.C. Jackson is a great player. Actually, Ricky, who's not on today, Ricky brought up to me like 2 years ago, oh, J.C. Jackson's like a top 3 corner in the league. And this was when I kind of knew J.C. Jackson, but didn't really think of him on that level. We fast forward to 2021 and J.C. Jackson's regarded as a top 3 corner. Like that's what's happened over the last couple of years, where he's just been able to take over and absolutely clamp guys in New England, has come away with a lot of interceptions as well. So yeah, he's going to get a lot. He's going to get paid. It doesn't seem like he's going to get paid by New England, which I find kind of interesting just because they did have like, okay, that's like a marquee guy that you've built up there. But the reason I don't get behind signing J.C. Jackson is a couple of things. One, for the 49ers situation, they would be so thin in terms of flexibility and cap over the next few years that I don't really like putting it all into one guy when even if you go and sign J.C. Jackson, you still lack cornerback depth. Like you're still going to lack something in that position. So that's the first part. And then the second part is I don't really like going out, if I'm a team, to go out and pay a corner because the second your corner, if you give him big money, the second he tears a knee, tears an Achilles or something, he might be a complete shell of himself and you might not get that guy again. Now, you could say this happens with pass rushers and stuff, but I definitely feel like the drop off is a lot earlier at the cornerback position than most other positions because we look at it and we go, oh, yeah, this guy was like one of the best in the league. And then 2 years later, he's like, you can't play him because he's a liability in coverage because he's not fast enough, not quick enough. He's lost that speed. So that's why I typically don't get behind big cornerback signings. But J.C. Jackson, tremendous player. I just don't think bringing him to San Francisco is the best move for the 49ers. I would much rather them sign guys for a lot less money, a lot less long-term deals, quicker short-term deals. And then you have the young guys in the room. You already have one of your starting corners in Emmanuel Moseley. Maybe Ambry Thomas is that guy next year. We'll see. They definitely could go after someone else. Deommodore Lenoir might be the guy in the slot, or you bring K'Waun Williams back. Like a lot of question marks in the corner room for sure. But I don't think going out and getting a marquee guy like J.C. Jackson necessarily solves your problem because if he goes down, you're still screwed at the cornerback position. And that's the problem there is that you're going to put all this money into this one spot, into this one guy, and you're still thin in terms of depth. Because my issue with what the 49ers did at corner last offseason was not necessarily that they went into the year with Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Moseley and K'Waun Williams as their starters with a couple younger guys behind them. It was that they didn't have a veteran off the bench that could just step in early on in the season and play solid cornerback, play solid at the cornerback position. And I think that's what they need to do differently this year around is they need to have that first guy off the bench that's ready to go. Maybe that's Ambry Thomas now. I would lean probably, but we probably got to see how he looks in camp and stuff. But I don't know. I'm leaning that Ambry Thomas could be that guy off the bench or even start, but I'd rather them go after depth opposed to, go after a big marquee name, because I don't want to see a Dante Johnson, a Josh Norman on the field. I think that's just where you get kind of picked apart. And for cornerbacks, I'd rather have average cornerback play and elite front seven play than have, whatever it is, and have like high top end corners. But then the second someone goes down, you're playing like guys that are just getting cooked every time, because that's what leads to disaster. So that's why it's probably a no for JC Jackson on my end. Another guy